So it has been a pretty wild, spooky season already, but I would be remiss if I did not talk about Over the Garden Wall, Patrick McHale's masterpiece of cartoon weirdness. Um, you know me, I'm a pretty big nerd, I guess you could say, and I've always had a soft spot for those sort of creepy, not really for kid shows like Adventure Time or Gravity Falls or whatever. Um, Over the Garden Wall is like that, only it is a painfully short Harvest God Dreamlands romp across different eras of American history, celebrating music and magic and the macabre. It's great. Um, Over the Garden Wall follows Wirt and Greg, who are lost in the woods. Wirt is the elder brother, wearing this blue cloak and tall red hat, while Greg is this sweet little kind of a brat who wears a teapot on his head and has a pet frog and is obsessed with candy and stuff. He's a typical kid stuff. They don't really remember how they got lost, but they know that they're trying to make their way back home. And instead of home, they've wandered into the unknown. And that's a good place to start. I fell in love with the show, like in the first scene, pretty much, because it begins with the frog sitting at a piano, in the middle of a dark void, playing a song titled "Into the Unknown." The unknown being the location of the setting. Let's call it. And the show is basically a musical. After that point, it's a wonderful musical as well, with some great songs. Into the Unknown being my favorite. Led through the mist by the milk light of moon, all that was lost is revealed. The children and the frog encounter a woodsman in the first episode, who is sworn to this terrible purpose of keeping a magic lantern lit by burning the ancient edelwood trees. And the woodsman warns them about the beast in the forest, who preys upon wayward souls, and he warns them to fear the unknown and all the creatures within it, and so on. More on that later. For the record, the show has a freaking all-star cast. Wirt is played by Elijah Wood, yeah, freaking Frodo Baggins, while the woodsman is Christopher Lloyd. Tim Curry shows up playing a witch eventually, and John Cleese is in it. It's pretty cool. The show is just overrun with these amazing little vignette stories where Wirt and Greg and the frog, they eventually team up, by the way, with a talking bluebird called Beatrice, uh, who decides to lead them to Adelaide of the pasture to try and get them home. It's a whole thing. The gang along the way encounters a town of singing, dancing skeletons who wear jack o' lanterns on their heads. And the town, by the way, is called Pottsfield. Just throwing it out there. There's a schoolhouse that they run into where a woman teaches animals the alphabet and feeds them potatoes and molasses, which is another great song, by the way. Um, there's an inn where pretty much everyone is defined by their profession, right? You have the innkeep and the tailor and the butcher and the baker and the highwayman and so on. As the story progresses, the main story progresses, spoiler alert, we're introduced to the beast himself. Originally, the kids get it into their heads that the woodsman is the beast, but it turns out that the beast is actually a horned shadow demon who devours souls using the magic lantern. The woodsman, again, spoilers, supposedly fought the beast for possession of the lantern, as it currently holds the soul of the woodsman's daughter. And that's why he struggles to keep it lit, lest her existence be snuffed out forever or devoured by the beast. Uh, the beast, throughout the story, presses the woodsman to hunt the kids, Wirt and Greg, right? He's trying to tempt the woodsman with oh, I can free your daughter's soul, or I can give you more edelwood trees, and so on. But the woodsman's too kind for that. You can't barter with the lives of children, right? And so instead, he warns the children against the beast time and time again. The beast, by the way, has a great song titled "Come Wayward Souls," and it's really only after you hear that you're encouraged to look up the voice cast, right? And that's when you find out that the beast is played by one Samuel Ramey, who is a famous operatic singer. Go figure. Um, my God, this show is just great. There's symbolism throughout, most obvious being Dante's Inferno, right? And this the idea of a descent into hell. Wirt, who is a tormented poet, and he plays the clarinet and pines after his beloved, right? He wears a red hat like Dante, and generally has the same self-centered, somewhat cynical demeanor. But Wirt, unlike Dante, arguably, Wirt overcomes his weaknesses, right? His self-centeredness and his ego, and he learns to be responsible in the end. By spoiler, he saves his little brother Greg from the clutches of the beast in a heart-wrenching scene in which Greg is slowly being turned into an edelwood tree. Because that's the big reveal. One of them is that when a lost soul in the unknown loses hope, they are transformed into an edelwood tree. And the woodsman realizes this, and he has this horrific realization that it hasn't been wood he's been feeding into the lantern, or at least not really. It's been children's souls. And even more terrible is that his daughter's soul was never in the lantern. It was this sick, twisted ploy by the beast to feed himself. The lantern is his phylactery, and he needs souls to survive. And so that is just such an amazing scene, one of the best I've seen in a long time in this sort of uh, grimdark children's cartoon range. But I'd say most horrifying of all in it this amazing show is the big spoiler, the big reveal, and that is that in an episode we're given a flashback where we see how Wirt and Greg ended up in the unknown, and it's the modern day, or not quite modern. Maybe it could be like the 80s or 90s. I don't know. But nevertheless, all this time we've been led to believe that it's like colonial times or something. But no, Wirt and Greg were kids going to a Halloween party. Greg, with the teapot on his head, was dressed up like an elephant with the trunk and everything. Uh, and they go off on some adventures that Halloween night. And after some hijinks, they wind up falling into a river and drowning. This is a children's show, by the way, and the writers were able to convince me multiple times that they were going to kill these child characters. But okay, the boys are on the brink of death the entire time they're in the unknown, uh, battling the beast that seeks to claim their souls. In essence, they're trapped in something like the Dreamlands, the Other World, or the Feywild, or something. Um, and their triumph over the beast, symbolizing triumph of hope against hopelessness, and life against death and all that. It leads them back into the land of the living. Though evidenced by the fact that the frog goes with them, and it provides proof that the events that transpired in the unknown were most certainly real, and even allowances are made for creatures and things to cross over, so to speak, which is both a comforting and a terrifying thought. Um, I just love Over the Garden Wall. I love it. I watch it every spooky season, and really it is a ride both wonderful and terrible, and incredible to behold. I I cannot recommend it enough. In fact, you should go watch Over the Garden Wall right now. You won't regret it. Like okay, like and subscribe first before you go. But yeah, go. You need to go and see and this masterpiece, and more people need to appreciate it. I'm telling you, there are few things better than Over the Garden Wall. I cannot recommend it highly enough. The it is everything I love, and it is the perfect show for this time of year. So, yeah. Bye.